Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real, something a lot of people don't want to hear. You think just because he's quiet, just because you ain't talking that he's not thinking about you. Nah, you are still on his mind whether he texts, calls, or even breathes near you or not. That's the truth. You see, men don't always act on their thoughts. Sometimes they just sit there stewing, replaying moments, wondering why things happened the way they did, and thinking about you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me get straight with you. Too many people, especially women, believe that if a man isn't talking, texting, or reaching out, he's forgotten. Let me tell you something right now. Absence does not equal forgetting. You hear me? Just because he's not in your face every day, just because the phone is quiet, that doesn't mean your name isn't running through his mind every single day. You see, men don't always operate like women do. Women, we talk, we share, we express, we want the communication, the proof, the contact. Men think differently. They process things differently. And a man thinking about you doesn't always translate into him picking up the phone or sending a message. Sometimes thinking is all he needs. See, here's the thing about men. They are very visual, very emotional, and very reflective, whether they show it or not. When a man spends time with a woman, when he connects, when he feels something, it creates an imprint in his mind. That imprint doesn't just disappear when there's distance. Oh no, it lingers. You ever notice how some men will suddenly remember a moment you shared together out of nowhere? That's not a coincidence. That's his mind replaying the moments you had together. And sometimes he does it more than you ever imagined. And this is important. Women think because he hasn't called, he doesn't care. Wrong. He's caring in his own way. Sometimes he's caring in silence, in thought, in reflection. He's carrying that memory of you in his mind, letting it grow, letting it stew, letting it sink in. And when the timing is right, he'll act. And let me tell you something else. Men have this way of underestimating the power of absence. They think if you're not around, you're out of sight, out of mind. But I'm here to tell you, women, that is rarely the truth. Men may go about their day, work, responsibilities, whatever, but a part of him is always thinking about you. That part is replaying the conversation, replaying the laughter, replaying the moments that made him feel alive, the way you looked at him, the way you carried yourself, even the little quirks you didn't notice about yourself, he noticed them. And when you're not there, those things get amplified in his mind. They start to take up more space because absence gives them room to grow. Let me break it down even further. You ever hear the saying, you don't know what you got until it's gone? That is real, and it applies here. When a woman steps back, when she gives space, that absence triggers something in a man's mind. It forces him to reflect. It forces him to consider what it is he values, what it is he's missing, and what it is he doesn't want to lose. Women sometimes think that giving space means they're pushing him away. No. Giving space is actually letting him recognize your value. It's letting him sit with his thoughts about you and understand just how much you mean to him. Men need time like that. They need room to think, room to feel, room to process. And that's why absence doesn't mean forgetting. It means the opposite. It means your presence is sinking deeper, even if he ain't reaching out. Now, ladies, I need you to understand something else about absence and memory. When you're not in constant contact, the moments you did share start to feel more significant in his mind. The way you laughed, the way you spoke, the little things he might have taken for granted before, those things get magnified. That smile of yours, it's on repeat in his head. That look in your eye when you were passionate about something, it's there too. The way you made him feel when he was down or when life was hard. That sticks, and it sticks hard. And all of that doesn't go away just because you're not talking. In fact, sometimes it sticks even more because there's nothing else to distract him. Your absence becomes a reminder of your presence. Your silence becomes louder than words ever could. And I'm going to be honest with you. Men are stubborn creatures. They don't always admit what they feel. They don't always express it. And they certainly don't always act on it the moment they think it. But that doesn't mean your absence makes him forget you. Oh, no. On the contrary, it gives him the space to realize that you were not just anybody. You're not a fleeting thought. You're not someone he can just shake off. You are someone who made an impression, someone who mattered, someone who continues to matter. And as days go by, even if he doesn't show it, even if he doesn't call, he's thinking, he's replaying, he's processing. And trust me, that processing counts for more than you realize. Ladies, I want you to remember this. Don't confuse silence with disinterest. Don't confuse absence with forgetting. Men think differently than women, and they remember differently. What sticks in a man's mind is often the feeling, the connection, the way you made him feel about himself and about life. Those things don't fade because the phone is quiet. Those things don't vanish because of distance. And when a man truly values you, even your absence can't erase the imprint you left on his heart and mind. So the next time you find yourself worried because he hasn't called, the next time you find yourself questioning if he's thinking about you, let me tell you something real. He is. He may not reach out immediately. He may not text or post or show it on social media, but that doesn't matter. Your impact, your presence, your memory is alive in his mind, growing stronger even when you're not there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth about absence and remembering. Don't doubt it. Don't stress over it. Sit back, be yourself, and know that even in silence, even in distance, you're still there, loud and clear, in his mind. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break this down for you, because this is where most people get it twisted. You think a man forgets you just because you ain't in front of him every day? Nah. What really sticks with a man is the emotional imprint you leave. That's right, emotional imprint. See, men are wired to remember feelings, moments, and experiences more than they remember words. That energy, that vibe, that way you made him feel, it's a tattoo on his mind. And once it's there, it don't just fade away. It stays. It lingers. And sometimes it grows stronger over time. Now, ladies, listen, see, Losley, emotional imprint ain't just about big gestures. It ain't about the expensive dinners or the flashy gifts. No, it's the little things. The way you laughed at his dumb jokes even when they weren't funny. The way you looked at him like he was the only man in the room. The way you listened when he had nothing to say but needed someone to be there. That, my friends, is what gets lodged in a man's memory. That's what makes him think of you when you ain't even around. And the crazy thing is, he might not even realize He's thinking about it until one day, out of nowhere, it hits him. He's driving, walking, sitting on the couch, and suddenly he remembers that one night you talked about nothing, but it meant everything. That's your emotional imprint at work. You see, women underestimate the power of their own presence. They think they have to keep talking, keep texting, keep chasing to stay in a man's mind. But the truth is, it ain't the words or the constant attention that makes a man remember. It's the way you made him feel when you were there. It's the joy, the excitement, the comfort, the warmth, the spark. That's the stuff that sticks. You leave a man's mind when you leave an impression on his heart. And let me tell you, a deep impression is unforgettable. And let's get real here. Men, they may not express themselves the way we want them to. They might not write a poem, send a sweet text, or tell you every day how much you mean to them. But that don't mean your impact ain't real, because that emotional imprint is working behind the scenes. It's in his thoughts when he wakes up. It's in his dreams when he sleeps. It's in the moments he thinks he's alone, reflecting, processing, trying to make sense of why he feels this pull towards you. And you didn't even have to do anything dramatic for it to happen. That's the power of emotional imprint. It's subtle, but it's powerful, and it lingers long after you've gone. Here's another thing to understand. A man can go weeks, months, even years without contact, but that emotional imprint doesn't disappear. It's like planting a seed. You may not water it every day, you may not talk about it, but that seed grows in his mind. It grows stronger when he remembers the little details. How you made him laugh, how you challenged him, how you inspired him, how you made him feel like he mattered. And the longer he sits with that memory, the more it becomes a part of who he is. He starts to compare every woman he meets to that imprint, you. And no matter what he does or who he meets, that memory, that energy, that presence of yours stays. It's with him, even if you don't know it. Now, let me tell you something about timing. Emotional imprint works best when you give it space. I don't mean ignoring or playing games. I mean letting a man process, letting him reflect, letting that seed grow in his mind. Because when he's forced to face the fact that he can't have that energy, that presence, that connection anymore, it hits him harder than anything else ever could. He starts to realize just how much of an impact you had, just how much you meant, and just how much he misses you without even saying it out loud. That's emotional imprint in action. That's why it's so powerful. That's why a man can think about you for days without contacting you. That's why you stay in his mind even when you're not around. Ladies, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't need to chase. You don't need to beg. You don't need to constantly remind him of your worth. Your presence, your energy, your emotional imprint does the work for you. You've already made your mark, and it's staying there whether he admits it or not. And when he eventually comes to terms with it, when he finally realizes the power of what he had, that's when the magic happens. That's when he can't stop thinking about you. That's when he understands the value of what you brought to his life. And trust me, that understanding hits harder than anything else. So remember this, ladies. Your emotional imprint is your secret weapon. It's the power of who you are, how you make a man feel, and the memories you leave behind. It works quietly, silently, but with incredible force. Even in your absence, it's there. Even when you think he's moved on, it's there. Even when he doesn't show it, it's there. And that, my friends, is the truth about emotional imprint, how your presence, energy, and memories continue to live in a man's mind, shaping his thoughts, feelings, and actions long after you've stepped away. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that a lot of people don't understand. You think because a man ain't texting, calling, sliding into your DMs, or hitting you up on social media that he's not thinking about you. Oh, no, no, no. That is where most women get it twisted. Men don't always communicate the way we do. They don't always put their feelings into words. And sometimes their thoughts about you show up in ways you might not even notice. Those are the behavioral signals, those little signs, little habits, little actions that tell you loud and clear that he's thinking of you, even if he's not reaching out directly. See, ladies, men are creatures of habit. They have patterns. And even when you think he's moved on or he's gone quiet, those habits can reveal his mind. Maybe he's suddenly active in places he wasn't before, checking up on your social media, liking your posts, or remembering things you said weeks ago. That ain't coincidence. That's his mind circling back to you. That's his brain replaying the moments you shared and making sure he don't forget the impact you had. It's subtle, but it's powerful. You just have to know what to look for. And it ain't always about technology. Sometimes behavioral signals are even quieter. Maybe he starts mentioning things he knows you care about when you're around other people. Maybe he drops your favorite topics in conversation without realizing it. Maybe he talks about things that remind him of you. Those little things, ladies, that's his mind working overtime. He may not call, he may not text, but he's thinking, reflecting, and internalizing. He's keeping you alive in his thoughts without ever saying a word. Another sign is the way men act when they're around mutual friends or in shared spaces. You ever notice how he lights up when your name comes up, or how he suddenly remembers that joke you made months ago? That's not random. That's a mental snapshot, a flashback, an emotional signal telling you that you are still very much present in his mind. Women tend to look for constant attention, but men show it differently. They show it in their behaviors, in the little details, in the way they carry themselves around memories of you. That's a behavioral signal. And it's one of the most honest signs because it's instinctive and it's usually unconscious. And let's talk about timing. Men will often think about you at specific times, when they're alone, when they're doing something that reminds them of you, when they hear a song, see a place, or smell something familiar. That's behavioral evidence right there. Even if he doesn't call, text, or reach out, those triggers in his daily life show that your presence lingers in his mind. That's proof that absence ain't nothing. That's proof that silence don't mean forgetting. And ladies, if you start paying attention to those little moments, you'll see him thinking about you more than you ever imagined. Now, I want you to understand this. Behavioral signals are not always direct, and they are not always obvious. That's why so many women miss them. He might not say, "I'm thinking about you" every day. He might not send a love letter or a text that says, "You're on my mind." But you'll notice patterns. You'll notice when he suddenly does things he didn't used to do. You'll notice when he's more aware of your presence in mutual settings. You'll notice when his energy shifts, his moods change, or when he seems distracted in ways you don't understand. That's him thinking about you, even if he ain't telling you. That's him processing, reflecting, and keeping your memory alive in his own way. And let's get one thing straight. Behavioral signals can be subtle, but they're consistent. That's why it's important for women to learn to read them. Look for the little things. Pay attention to his actions over time. See if there's a pattern that shows he's still invested, still engaged, still thinking of you. Maybe it's a call from a friend asking about you. Maybe it's a random text he sends just to say something small. Maybe it's a compliment, a reference, or a story he tells that reminds him of you. These are all behavioral signs that even in silence, he's mentally with you. Now, here's the real truth about behavioral signals. They work in your favor if you recognize them. They tell you that even without contact, even without constant communication, a man can be thinking about you, reflecting on you, and valuing what you bring to his life. And when you recognize that, it changes everything. You stop doubting yourself. You stop overthinking. You stop feeling like you got to chase or beg for attention. Because the truth is, his behaviors are already giving you the proof you need. He may not say it with words, but he's saying it with actions, patterns, and subtle signs. Ladies, don't underestimate the power of observing. Don't underestimate the power of paying attention to the little detail. That's how you know a man's mind is on you, even when he's not reaching out. And when you understand this, it puts you in a position of power. You're no longer waiting for validation, no longer anxious about silence, no longer doubting your worth. You see the signals, you see the proof, and you know that your presence in his mind is alive and strong. And trust me, that knowledge changes everything. So remember this, ladies. Behavioral signals don't lie. They show you where his thoughts are, even when words fail. They reveal the moments, the memories, and the connections he's holding on to. They show you that even in absence, even in silence, you are still there. You are still significant. You are still unforgettable. And that, my friends, is the truth about behavioral signals, the quiet, subtle, but undeniable ways a man shows he's thinking of you without ever saying a word. Ladies and gentlemen, now this is where most people get it all wrong. They think if they give a man space, if they step back, if they stop texting, calling, or trying to get his attention, that he's going to forget them. But I'm here to tell you that's the farthest thing from the truth. Timing and patience are everything when it comes to men and the way they think about you. Giving him space doesn't push him away. It draws him closer in ways you can't even imagine. It allows him to sit with his thoughts, to process what you mean to him, and to realize the value you bring into his life without you having to spell it out every single day. See, ladies, men don't always express their feelings the way we want them to. They don't always tell us they miss us, or that they can't stop thinking about us, or that they want us in their lives. But that doesn't mean they don't feel it. In fact, the opposite is often true. When you give a man space, when you allow him to breathe, to reflect, to sit with his own thoughts, it triggers something in him. He starts to remember the little things about you, the way you laugh, the way you listen, the way your presence fills a room, and makes him feel alive. And those memories grow stronger because absence has a way of amplifying what he already felt, but maybe didn't fully recognize. Timing is just as important as patience. You see, a man needs the right timing to process his feelings. He needs time to sit back and really understand the impact you had on him. When you're constantly in contact, constantly available, he might take it for granted without even realizing it. But when you step back, when you allow him to experience life without your constant presence, it forces him to reckon with what he values, what he misses, and what he can't replace. That's why timing and patience go hand in hand. They give him the mental and emotional space to process, to feel, and to recognize the depth of his connection with you. And ladies, let me tell you something else. Patience is powerful. It shows strength. It shows confidence. When a woman is patient, when she doesn't chase or beg or plead for attention, it sends a message louder than words ever could. It says, I know my worth. I know my value. And I'm not going to compromise that just to get validation from you. That kind